So welcome to the You Are the Creatrix podcast with myself, Angie Litvinoff, and my wonderful guest, Trista Hedren, as part of the Trailblazer season. Trista Hedren founded Girl God Books in 2011 to support a necessary unravelling of the patriarchal worldview of divinity. Her first book, The Girl God, a children's picture book, was a response to her own daughter's inability to see herself reflected in God. And since then, she's published more than 50 books by women from across the globe. So originally from Portland, Oregon, she now lives in Bergen, Norway with her family. Welcome, huge welcome, Trista, to this juicy episode. It's fantastic to connect with you here in this space.
Thank you so much for having me, Angie. I'm excited to talk with you.
Wonderful. So tell us about your journey so far, Trista. Tell us about yourself and about your journey.
I'll try to be brief. I've had a very strange spiritual journey. I started out as a fundamentalist Christian. I had the intention to become a minister. And then once I went to my Southern Baptist College, I realized in that denomination anyway, there was no hope of me ever becoming really a minister. It was more like a how to find a husband school. And so within the first semester of studying the historic, linguistic, and cultural roots of the Bible, I became an atheist and completely lost my faith. And then I transferred schools, went back to Portland, which I never thought I would do, and discovered feminism and a cute Lebanese guy and became a Muslim. So that was my journey for about 15 years. And then I didn't really fall out of Islam the same way that I did with Christianity, where it was like so, but it was more that I was trying to raise my kids in an interfaith household instead of like where I was raised, where it was like a pamphlet of like every other world religion and why it was wrong. And I thought I was, doing a pretty good job with that and taking them. My grandparents, as they got older, I would take them to church. They went to a UCC church, which is much more liberal. And so I would take my kids to the UCC church and to the mosque and, kind of incorporate both faith backgrounds. But once my daughter was like 4 or 5, it was very obvious that I was doing her a huge disservice and that she just couldn't relate. And she felt that it was really only for her brother and that it didn't, relate to her at all. And it never even hit me, I think, because I was raised in such a patriarchal way. And, I had been a feminist for like 20 years, but I hadn't really explored the faith part of women's rights. And really, to me, that's kind of where we're stuck, because I think you really have to get into the faith traditions, because they certainly are not, I would say, anywhere where women could find any sort of equality. So yeah, I wrote The Girl God kind of just based on a conversation with my daughter. I didn't have my background, actually. I have an MBA and I had been a mortgage broker for 13 years, but that was kind of ended when the market crashed in 2008. And I ended up taking care of both my grandmothers before they passed. They both died within 6 months of each other. So between that and being a single mom and going through a divorce and everything, I just kind of like had this, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I didn't really have any plans. And I didn't really have any plans other than to write the one book, but it just kind of spiraled. And then I kept getting more and more ideas, and then more people came to me with, their book ideas. And so we've done a lot of, I really like to work collaboratively. So I think, you can do a lot more when you work together with other women. Because I never could have done 50 books all by myself. But yeah, my mom helps, my husband helps, my son helps, my daughter, I'm hoping, will help soon. So, and she kind of had to take her own path where she wasn't really, I took her on a goddess pilgrimage when she was 12, And then she kind of had a couple of years where she just didn't really seem interested. And I was kind of thinking, oh, but I didn't want to push, So now she's come back into it on her own, and she has she's a little goddess witch. So I'm very pleased.
So wow, that's like phenomenal. And you are an absolute magnet for other phenomenal women. I know from my own firsthand experience, I've been part of a collaborative project with Crone Initiation, published by Girl God Books, that it is a true powerhouse of incredible divine energy and hugely uplifting. And your experience, your life experience, Trista, in terms of feminism, faith, you listening to yourself and to the needs that arose within you and those of your daughter, being aware and being present for her, so that what you're describing is, rather than being immersed in your own journey and carried by it and only seeing that, is actually to step back and to have that discerning ability to see what's actually, to listen, the ability to listen to her, which I'm really moved by. And tell me also, what's inspired you to follow your path? What's actually allowed you to open yourself to this immense journey that you're on?
Well, I would have to say my daughter has been my biggest inspiration in everything. Also, my son, I really was important to me that I feel a huge responsibility as a mother of a son to bring him up in a way that he will be a good partner to someone else. And my husband has been a huge part of that as well, because he's just a tremendous example of the divine masculine when it goes really well, because it took me a long time to heal my divine masculine. I had a lot of wounding around that. And I've used a lot of artwork, but also just the relationship with him. And he's just such a beautiful man. And my son has turned out to be also a beautiful man. And he's had the same partner for 3 years. And it's just, they have this wonderful relationship. And I'm so happy, because I've actually been a little bit scared when it comes to my daughter that, okay, what kind of, if she, ends up being heterosexual, what kind of man will be there for her? Because honestly, when I look at some of the younger boys and even some men my own age, I would think, oh, I would not want to be single right now.
It's interesting that you've mentioned the divine masculine as well, because it's something that I've been really inspired by and exploring, and have had conversations about recently too, in terms of, well, I would say how it supports my connection to the divine feminine and that appreciation of being, complete within that. So actually bringing in and allowing and surrendering to aspects of the divine masculine, so that one is supported and nourished. And I'm getting that inspiration from books I'm reading written by men, men that I meet, that I have conversations with, coaches online that I follow. It seems to be just a very kind of powerful right now, and I know it's not just me, so it's really interesting that you talk about that. And a word that I'm very very into is passion, because I feel that it encompasses so much. So how does your how does your passion in you relate to your life and work?
Oh boy. I think passion is really important. I was just talking, I just took on another book project with a wonderful woman in Scotland. And then there's an artist that I haven't worked with either, that was a friend of hers in Estonia. We were talking about this idea of like, how do you keep motivated with all these projects? And I said, I always just work on what I am passionate about in that moment. And if I'm not feeling it, I'll put the project aside and take it back up when I'm actually feeling it again. But I think also that I'm working on Louise Turner's or Aldred's. She has a Making Love with the Divine, book that we're putting out next month. And I love the book because I think also that a lot of like our erotic and sexual passions fuel everything else. Like you have to kind of be in flow. And I think it's so important to be in tune that way, and I feel like I have a really juicy sex life with my husband and with myself, and that also keeps things going. And I think when that stops, you tend to get stuck, because I always kind of feel like, okay, an orgasm is like a reset button. If I get too much in the head here, it's like, okay, I need to take a little break.
So it's interesting what you're describing, because you know, that is that the sacral energy of that creativity, sexuality and identity, and how all of those things are so merged together. And as you know, we're so influenced, you know, by where we're at with any of them. And the way that you so eloquently, you know, bring those together in the way that you describe your own life is really beautiful. And that, yeah, I mean, igniting some of those passions within us to help with some of the others, you know, so that they all have a knock-on effect on each other.
Well, and I think the way you fuel yourself too is very important. I mean, I pretty much make all of our meals from scratch. I love to cook. I love really good ingredients, but also fueling yourself with self-care and all these things, because it's so easy to become depleted, I think, as a woman when we tend to do so much of the caretaking. So yeah, just refilling the cup.
Wonderful. Yeah. And this is, you know, a huge point, and I think one that we can just take a moment to savor, you know, in terms of what you're sharing, Trista, because that being able to refill that cup and to stop and acknowledge what we actually need, again, has got such huge impact on what follows. Yeah, I've got a kind of I guess it's, you know, it's expansive question for you. What is the true impact of, in your view, of embracing the divine feminine and creating the space to explore our own divinity?
I think every woman who does that is bringing the world back into balance. And we are so completely misaligned on the whole. But if we can, within ourselves, find and maintain that feeling of divinity, then it will have a ripple effect out into the world. And that's my hope, is that more of the world will embrace goddess. Because I think that's really our only hope as humanity. And it's really important, but it's, you know, she's still not known. So that's kind of been my work too, is there are a lot of like exclusively goddess sites, but I've always had a heart for the Christian and Muslim women and Jewish women that I grew up around, that like, okay, you can actually, it's a little bit of a stretch, but you can find the divine in all the faith traditions. She's still there, but it's just kind of like a little piece, you know? So bringing it out more and having women who, you know, maybe are uncomfortable with the word goddess, because I do get a lot of criticism, like, why is it the girl god? And, you know, why is it? And it is partially because when I started this work, I myself wasn't really even comfortable with the word goddess, you know, and I wanted it also to be accessible in a way, like the language to my daughter, because even if we're honest, like 4 or 5-year-old little girls, for the most part, don't know the word goddess. And it's like, you know, so working into it and bringing in more people into this path. So I would really like to open the floodgates and bring as many women and men, but my focus has been primarily on women, because
yeah, I mean, I think for me, certainly when I connected with you and to Girl God books, it was many things. One of them was that I found it was quite confrontational, actually, in the healthiest way possible. I mean, I studied women's studies over 25 years ago, have been a feminist since a teenager, since I was aware what feminism was. And at the same time, now coming into, turning 50, I'm challenged by in a different way, and challenged by different levels of feminism, including, relating to, being a woman of color, relating to the changing times, relating to who considers themselves part of that journey, the divine masculine. There's so many aspects that come in and deepen our relationship to it, but also that the opening that it facilitates when we are seeing the divine in our likeness is something that is probably the most impactful thing for me. That connection, that beauty inside and outside, and being able to relate and knowing that I matter, you matter, we all matter. Actually, we all matter, women, in terms of our divinity, and we have an individual unique connection, which is constantly emphasized by education, by reading, by being stimulated and inspired and motivated, and have a passion and all of those things. So I think for me, like, coming to the books that you publish and your journey, it's about questions that come up that also challenge and educate, challenge our own view of ourselves, because we might think we know it all, and then suddenly, something comes along which opens us up more to further depths of exploration.
I always find the more that I learn, the more I realize I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's endless. There's so much, and yeah.
Wonderful. So in terms of, tell us where we can find you. There's a website address and where people can get hold of the books.
So the website is thegirlgod.com. I'm on most actively Facebook and Instagram, just at Girl God Books. I have some other ones, but I'm not good about checking them, so I think I need to just streamline. Although I would love to find a new platform that is a bit, I'm not in love with either Facebook or Instagram, but at the moment, that seems where I have the most traction. So
wonderful. And there's also a mailing list that people can join as well for updates and things. So you can log on and get onto that to be updated on the latest amazing collaborations and books as well. Well, Trista, it's just been so amazing to have you and to have this chance to slow everything down and to explore some themes with you. And lots of questions will be coming up for listeners and opportunities for self-exploration, which is hugely exciting. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Angie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.